Another issue being discussed at the White House today, the war in Ukraine. During their meeting in the Oval Office, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz urged President Trump to increase pressure on Russia. But Mr. Trump made no such commitments and instead compared Ukraine and Russia to two fighting children who need to work out their differences. Nick Schifrin reports.
Today in the Oval Office, an attempt to tie the U.S. to Europe by family.
This is the birth certificate of Donald Trump's grandfather.
And history. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz cited the U.S. support of Western Europe against the Nazis as a reason for the U.S. to side with Ukraine.
May I remind you that we are having June 6 tomorrow. This is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe.
That was not a pleasant day for you?
No, that was not a pleasant... This was the liberation of my country from Nazi dictatorship.
That's true.
America is again in a very strong position to do something on this war and ending this war. We are looking for more pressure on Russia.
But more than 3 years after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, President Trump today suggested the war should maybe continue.
Sometimes you see two young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while and then pulling them apart. There's some additional fighting that's going to go on.
President Trump also said he hadn't read a bipartisan bill sponsored by Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal that would impose sanctions on Russia and its trading partners. And any future sanctions could be imposed both on Russia and Ukraine.
When I see the moment where it's not going to stop, and I'm sure you're going to do the same thing, will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know.
Merz became chancellor of a center-right coalition last month. He's promised to help Ukraine build its own weapons and increase Germany's defense spending to 5% of gross domestic product. That's the same goal NATO defense ministers negotiated today in Brussels to spend 3.5% on defense plus 1.5% on infrastructure. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said NATO members had no choice.
We're here to continue the work that President Trump started, which is a commitment to 5% defense spending across this alliance, which we think will happen, which we think has to happen by the summit at The Hague later this month.
But not all of NATO's 32 countries are on board. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles.
We think we are able to accomplish these capability targets for Spain with the 2% of GDP.
U.S. officials say those plans, endorsed today, born from estimates that Russia's rebuilding its defense industrial base for war beyond Ukraine. NATO hopes to be able to deploy 300,000 troops to Eastern Europe within 6 months should Russia attack. The U.S. currently has 80,000 troops based in Europe and could reduce that number, Hegseth hinted today.
So there are reasons why we have troops in certain places, and we respect and understand that. It was also prudent that we review that force posture in real time alongside our allies and partners to make sure it's right-sized.
But NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte expressed confidence in the U.S.'s European presence given the threat posed by Russia.
We all know we will be safe for the next couple of years, but then we need to use those years to learn Russian if we don't do this.
Today, it is only Ukraine preventing Russia's advance. A defense official tells PBS NewsHour this weekend's attack by Ukrainian drones destroyed about a dozen Russian bombers and damaged about a dozen more. That's less than Ukraine's public estimate. In their phone call yesterday, President Trump warned Russian President Vladimir Putin not to respond.
I said, don't do it. You shouldn't do it. You should stop it. But again, there's a lot of hatred.
Merz hoped to convince President Trump today to pressure Russia. But in Trump's words, the children will continue to tussle. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin.